Klay Thompson is the X factor for Golden State. He is the ultimate wild card because at his best, taking and making a ton of threes, he's a much better player than Brandon Pojemski is. The problem with Klay, though, isn't that he's not good enough at his best. It's that at his worst, he's pretty bad. He struggles defensively, and he can try to do too much offensively when he's best suited to mainly just shoot threes. So if he tries to create for himself or really try to do things that are just beyond his skill set, such as create for others as well, that becomes a bit of a problem. If he can stay in the game, though, Golden State has a chance to be a problem as a play-in team. If he can't, they're definitely going to be an early exit. My X factor for the Kings is Keon Ellis, who has seen a major uptick in minutes in the past roughly 1 month. In that time frame, he's been a great defender and been super efficient, and the Kings are going to need that to continue as their guard depth has been decimated by injury, with Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter recently getting hurt. If Ellis can maintain his level of play, the Kings should be able to maintain their balanced style of play and be a tough out for anyone in the West. If not, the Kings are really going to struggle because it's pretty much just De'Aaron Fox and then some low-end players as their guard rotation. It would really just be maybe Davion Mitchell as their other key contributor as a guard, with Huerter and Monk being hurt. And you just don't want to put too much weight in Mitchell at this point. He has not shown himself to be a quality starter deserving of minutes in the playoffs. So it's really on Keon Ellis to make the Kings go. For the Lakers, DAngelo Russell is their X factor. He's extremely streaky, with his only constant really being a lack of defense. With that said, though, he'll be a good contributor if he can take quality looks and not force up shots. But if he does force things to try to put up numbers, which he sometimes does, he'll be a thorn in the Lakers' side on both ends of the court. So it's really going to be a feast or famine with Russell, and it's hard to say which one we're going to get. I tend to think he'll be more of a plus than a negative because he's been super efficient from three this year, shooting 42% on 7 attempts a game, which is really good volume. All of that suggests he's more often than not taking good shots. But just last year, he had a steep drop-off from the regular season to the playoffs to the tune of 5 less points and 9 percentage points worse true shooting. So it's really hard to say what we're really going to get in any given game with Russell. As you could probably expect, Zion is New Orleans' X Factor. This is his first playoffs, and he has a very specific way of playing that defenses will be able to better defend as they know what will be coming. I can see a world where his highly efficient offense continues, though, especially as he has progressed greatly as a passer. But adversely, with defenses being able to sell out to his and Valanciunas' paint presence, things can get quite a bit more difficult for him and the Pelicans as a whole. So it's really going to be on Zion to determine if the Pelicans sink or swim. If he can continue to dominate in the paint like he wants to, which is totally possible, he has the frame to get in even if the defenses are set. But it's not a guarantee because, as we've seen with even Giannis early on in his postseason career, teams are able to slow him down a little bit. And if Zion gets slowed down, that's really going to be trouble for the Pelicans. Phoenix's X factor is Yusuf Nurkic. Will he be productive enough offensively to be able to show off his great rebounding and defense? That's really the question, because against Denver, he'll be out there to defend Jokic. But against, say, OKC or Minnesota, who they're going to face in the first round, they don't have an imposing big man. So Nurkic isn't really a necessity to be out there. And that's where I'm very interested to see in how he gets used. He holds the defensive unit together, but can damper things on offense compared to when Durant is the center, which could be something we see more of come playoff time, because Durant gets, I think, disrespected a little bit for his defensive prowess. I'm not saying Durant is a great defender, but he's definitely an above average one, and he's a good weak side defender. He's solid at shot blocking, and he's just very aware as a defender. So I think he could be a center more than we've seen in the regular season. For Dallas, PJ Washington is their X factor. He is their best wing defender, so he should get solid minutes regardless. But he has really struggled offensively this year with 32% shooting from three and 54% true shooting, where the average for a power forward is 59%. If he can make his open looks, Dallas will be a very scary team, and he could get minutes as a small ball 5 even. If he can't hit his shots, his minutes might be a little bit more limited than we're expecting from him. So there's a massive swing associated with his play. And it's really hard to say which one we're going to get because Washington has historically been a fine offensive player. He's been able to make his threes pretty decently. But this year, he's really struggled with that. And it might just be a case where it's going to be a down year for him as the entire year goes on. Or maybe he writes it come playoff time. When it comes to the Clippers, I think James Harden is going to determine how far they go. I don't fear that his scoring will drop off, nor do I fear his playmaking failing. Instead, I'm worried about his efficiency. Last year, his true shooting percentage was 7 percentage points lower in the playoffs than it was in the regular season. If he drops off like that again, I could see the Clippers getting bounced in round 1. If he instead plays efficiently, though, they stand a chance to get out of the West, which is really saying a lot because it's a stacked conference. But he'll be playmaking for Leonard and George, which will get them going. And if he can score a little bit on himself, that'll be just an added bonus to what the Clippers are going to be doing. So they really could be a threat. But again, if Harden struggles, that's really going to put a damper on things for the Clippers. And it'll be hard to see them having success beyond the first round. My X factor for the Timberwolves is Jalen McDaniels. Defensively, he is elite. But offensively, there can be some real concerns. He only shoots 33% from 3, which is basically the bare minimum one can shoot from 3 and still provide any sort of spacing. If you haven't done the math, 33% from 3 equates to 50% from the field. So that is basically a fair trade-off, but 33% is just, once again, you're not really scaring defenses with that type of shooting. Moreover, he shoots just 3.5 threes a game, so he really isn't getting many difficult looks up either. If he can make his shots and be able to provide his elite defense, the Wolves are going to be very pesky. If he can't, and Minnesota is forced to bring in Nickeil Alexander-Walker in his place, the bench for the Wolves will take a real blow, and defensively they won't be quite as dominant. Christian Braun is Denver's X factor. He is the player I most see playing the Bruce Brown sixth-man role off the bench, which is only partly due to their names being pronounced the same way. The Browns are tasked with creating some offense for himself and others, playing solid defense, and overall making sure things don't fall apart when a starter gets a break. I think Christian has the talent for that, but it's going to be an increased role than what he's used to, so it's not guaranteed. And really with him, it's not so much of a question of if he can be this key rotation guy for the Nuggets. It's more so how consistent is he going to be in that role, because he's shown that he is a viable option. It's just more so a question of, can you do it every time your name is called? Because when Bruce Brown was with the Nuggets last year, it was basically every time he came in, the Nuggets were as good or even sometimes better than when he was out of the game. OKC's X Factor really stands out to me, as it's Josh Giddey. I can see a world in which he gets played off the court because defenses aren't respecting his threes, and he still isn't making them. Inversely, if he does make his threes, though, and forces defenses to respect him, that allows for another playmaker along Shea, and that's a really scary thought for defenses. Defensively for OKC, too, Giddey isn't a great defender, but he adds length to their lineup, and that has some value as the crowd's passing lanes, allows for greater contest, and helps in switching too, which they'll be doing a fair bit of, because the playoffs, you are going to be switching basically whether you want to or not. There's going to be so many mismatch hunts, and Giddey might be somebody that offenses look to go against for his defensive prowess not being the greatest. So with his length, he's at least going to match up with whoever he's guarding. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed for more content.